Hello everyone and welcome to Fix My Track. We're working some magic on your tracks again, so you're sending your projects and we're doing some changes to make your track a little bit more polished, a little bit more release ready. So let's jump into it with today's track. So really cool track overall. As usual, the first thing that I try to look at when we're dealing with music that has drums is the drums. I feel like this is the backbone of your track. So I did a few changes, but I felt like it gave a lot more power and presence to this element. So let's have a look into that. So here, the first thing that I looked at was the kick. So you had a very hefty, very powerful kick. So I decided to think about doing a bit of layering. So the kick itself has a lot of low end, has a lot of energy in that range. However, what I did was I essentially kind of used a MIDI clip and browsed through a few of my samples till I found something that acted as just a transient layer. So this is all I'm adding. So if you look here, so I'm using drum sampler and I've filtered out a lot. Not only have I just used the very front end of the sound, so I'm only using the transient, so the attack of this kick, and together with that I am, filtering to only have everything above 563 hertz, and on top of that I'm also adjusting the length as I've shown here. And what this is doing essentially, together with the other one, we'll notice how this really kind of just adds that click that makes the kick cut through the mix, right? I've also played around with a bit of this of effects. I felt like a bit of punch could be added, or we can kind of improve the punchiness by just moving around this XY pad that it essentially just dictates the amount and the release values, to even make it snap a bit more. I also played around with inverting the phase to see if there were any phase issues, but felt like it was working well like this. So this really is a subtle change that does quite a number on the sense of punch that we get from the kick. So that was the first thing that I've looked at. And I've tried something which is not very conventional. You wouldn't think about using a de-esser in other things apart from, let's say, vocals. That's like the normal candidate for de-essing. But here, because you had a loop, this percussion loop, which was really cool, adds a lot of movement. So I did a tiny bit of EQing, but the thing that I would mostly pay attention to is how I've used this compressor with the sidechain filter on, telling it to only compress the frequencies above almost like 4K, to be fair. So what this is doing is acting as a de-esser, and the reason for this is because I felt like the brighter sort of elements were kind of peeking through, so I didn't want to compress. Well, I'm actually compressing everything, but before I hit that compressor, I'm trying to level out the peaks from the higher sounds in that loop, because I cannot have access to the individual sounds. I'm thinking about their roles and their content and trying to just smooth out a little bit those harsher peaks. So that's what I did for this loop. And also I felt like this clap was a little bit tucked in the mix, a little bit hidden, right? This one here. So I did two tricks. I made it louder, but then because it's essentially a mono sound, right? So it lives sort of in the middle. I was using a line delay to offset the right channel by roughly 10 milliseconds. And this psychoacoustically gives us a sense of stereo. So I felt like this could also promote the width of the clap in the mix. So I felt like that was a tiny bit of an improvement, but that also allows us to have a sense of a wider clap in our mix, together with a tiny bit of EQ. And then lastly, to glue everything together, I went through two stages on the drums group. So here with drum bus, quite interesting how 22% of a few improvements here. So essentially I'm doing a bit of overdrive, a bit of crunch, so 2 flavors of saturation. On top of that, a bit of transient enhancement with a transients feature. And yeah, that's all it needs. So if you listen to this at 100%, it sounds like it's a bit too much, a bit too crushed, a bit too saturated. So let's hear it at 100% and then see what the... All right, so that will be way too much, but there's a quality that I kind of like there. But I dialed it down until I found like a good balance between dry and wet. And then on top of that, to just even make the peaks of every drum when playing together sort of be a bit more leveled, I just added also the limiter, taking away what seems to be roughly 2 dB at most, keeping everything together and improving the sense of loudness as well on your drums. So that's it for drums. So with your bass, I've noticed that you had 3 different layers of the same sound. So I felt like this could be a bit more interesting in the genre that you're developing here, to maintain one of the layers. So that's your kind of main bass sound, which was really cool. But I've also gated it in sidechain with the new bass that I've created, which essentially is the same bass, so it's the same bass line, so I just copied the MIDI. But I went to this website, which is really cool. So I thought that it would also be interesting to share with you guys this presetshare.com website that is a community-based website. So this is all presets that are created by music producers, and yeah, you can find presets for not only Vital, which was the one that I've used, which is a freeware synth, really great synth, great sounding synth. I absolutely love it and use it all the time. But also, things like Serum or Diva or any other of your favorite synths, you will find presets for that there. So it's free to use. It's community based. So I found what I was looking for, which was this log drum bass here in Preset Share. So I've downloaded it and opened it in Vital, and essentially the log has this sort of sound, which kind of the name is pretty self-explanatory, kind of sounds like very wooden, I would put it that way. So I've also added the 2 layers in 2 different octaves, and in this style, so it's a very popular bass in Amapiano, which is not exactly the style here, but I feel like it could give it that sort of driving force that this bass has. I only did a little variation here halfway through the drop, which was doing a bit of a bass roll. Felt like this was a good change. It's good to kind of introduce some variations every now and again, so that's what I did. And essentially the bass, as I said, your main bass, which is sort of also wider in a way, is gated to kind of go along with the cadence of your log bass. So this, I think, gives a lot of bounce to the track. Lastly, to just bring all these sounds together, so when you have multiple basses in your track, it's a good idea to try and make sure that you don't have like an overpowering low end, or all of the frequencies are kind of glued together. So what I'm doing here is 3 stages of dynamic control in the group. So this is affecting the 3 sounds at the same time. The first one is multiband dynamics, which is kind of keeping together essentially here the lows. Right, so working on this very subby region here, compensating a little bit after that. Then kind of the overall peaks also being glued together with the glue compressor, and then lastly the compressor responding to the kick. So the sidechain compression to make it bounce a little bit, to make it pump. So yeah, I felt like that was a big improvement, and that it made your bass a lot more powerful. So this is a first in Fix My Track. So we're going to look at your strings. And by the way, thank you JP Strings for sending this in. So this is the author of this track, which has a really interesting twist, which is not only programmed strings, but also what seems to be live recorded strings. So I had to do a bit of work on balancing these strings to make them sound like they belong to the same sort of world, if that makes sense. So what we hear here is essentially the strings being distributed across the stereo field. So here in the mixer, you can see that essentially I tried to place them in a way that would make them as wide as possible, and that they wouldn't overlap in their placement in the mix. As for this sort of main one, which I felt like this is the kind of most important lick, which is the low violin. So apart from the EQ work, apart from carving out any unnecessary lows and highs and boosting a bit of mids wherever the strings had their presence and most of their energy, on this one I made it sort of like dance around the stereo field with auto pan. So these are also beautiful. So it was mostly like balancing work, but on the group then, I'm putting them all together in the same room, so to speak, by adding a reverb to the group. So this is something that I don't do always, but in this case I felt like it really needed. I think, strings really need to sound like they are in a large room most of the times. So that's what I did. I'm running them all through the same hall reverb here and on hybrid reverb, and then I'm also compressing them a little bit. I felt like we could make these pump because although it's an electronic style, although it's a classic element in an electronic style, I think it kind of makes sense that it also follows along this sort of pumping effect. So it's, in my opinion, made it sound a bit more together and fit into the atmosphere that was created. As far as your synths are concerned, I didn't do much, or maybe I have, but I tried to keep essentially their nature as much as possible. So like for this first one here, let me show you what I did. I was a bit more creative, I feel. Apart from EQ, finding, where there were overlaps with the bass, so I kind of took away a lot of the lows with a high-pass filter and a bit of low-mid. Found here a spot around 1K that made that synth pop through the mix. But then here's where I got creative, not only with the echo. So I feel like the ping pong kind of also makes it not only groove a bit more, but also has that beautiful tail with the feedback. But this was, I guess, the most interesting thing, was having a filter on a half notes rate, kind of progressively opening up. I feel like this really made the sound kind of move and have a bit more of attitude in the context of the big drop, which is filled with already a lot of elements. So this was the way to make it special, to make it move. Even as a background thing, it's important that it has something that captivates the audience's attention. So on the other synth, I did also something, I guess, that I haven't shown here already, which is using an LFO on a bell filter. So this is making instead of having a static EQ, this EQ is kind of going up and down, creating a resonance at different frequencies. So it's also another way of making a sound move. So I guess like we could think about auto panning or filters, but we haven't really played around with EQ. So mapping the LFO to the frequency was a way that I felt like could give this sound a bit of an ever-changing quality. With your vocals, this is one thing that I felt like could be taken into consideration from, I would say, almost like a songwriting perspective. Although you're using an a cappella, I've decided to chop out a bit which I felt was the hook of the track, and that it could be repeated on your drop as the memorable sentence. Although I don't really understand what's being said, I feel like the energy of one particular sentence could be used as a motif that gets repeated, and also did a bit of a clever effect on it, which I feel that also complemented the drop, or the transition into the drop, really well. So let's look into that. So what I mean is this bit here. So this to me was the hook. So I not only decided to repeat it, so I felt like we could bring back that sentence. Really reinforces that sentence and the emotion I think that's being conveyed. Again, although I don't really know what's being said, but it does really kind of prepare also the coming in of the violin after that, right? So that was nothing doing that preparation. I feel like the vocal was really helpful in bridging that gap. But also, in terms of effects, with this, I did something in terms of automation. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of automation. But I decided to bring in something new, which was making the vocal feel like it was disappearing into the distance, or like being dropped off a cliff, if you want. Which is not only, I think I've shown this before, not only upping the dry and wet value, or actually the wetness of it, but also the decay, making it really absurdly long, if you will. So let's look at how that translates to in the track. So 24 seconds sounds excessive, but it really kind of creates that effect. So then it goes back down to seven seconds. Still a pretty long reverb, but a bit more less confusing. I mean, that's the problem with reverbs with long tails, is that they will, you know, become messy and soupy very instantly. So what I decided to do was to then bring it back to a more logical decay after that, and then put together with that the low vocal that appears. I've only did something which I feel like in this very modern technique of adding a layer with a low octave, which adds a lot of depth, and all good with that. But not only EQing it is important to make it get away or stay away from the main vocal, but also playing around a bit with saturation as a way to give it a bit more attitude. So that's what I did here with Roar. And that's it for vocals. Lastly, we're going to look at the master. So with my master chain, again, I've been always using or resorting to the same tools. As you can tell, these need to be adapted, so the settings do not stay the same, but I'll go again one by one. I've found it interesting how you've used the reverb on the master, again, just to add a bit of overall reverb at a specific transition. So that was a really cool trick that you did there, so I kept that. But apart from that, very minimal stuff being done here, but a great impact in the end. So apart from, obviously, again, I keep doing this, I keep gaining a bit of headroom, so trying to bring down the input level into our mastering chain, so that ideally that is prevented before on the gain staging part of your mix. But that being said, tiny bit of EQ, taking away mostly low mids, love saturation at very subtle settings, but you can tell how it immediately warms up the mix. Then also here, trying to glue together the different ranges, lows, mids, and highs, mostly working around the low end. Glue compressor here, as you can tell, I sometimes tweak my settings, so I felt like the attack needed to be a little bit quicker for this particular track. Still taking, what, 1 dB, knocking off 1 dB, that's pretty much nothing. And then lastly, the limiter, just increasing the overall loudness by 3.6 dB. Yeah. So thanks a lot for sticking around for another episode of Fix My Track. Keep sending in your projects, and we'll be helping you out with trying to elevate your tracks as we did with this one here. Until next time, take care.